probably not reflecting the mood on the day, the market falling back a little bit, but it was expected. At some point, we should see some profit taking after the huge rally we've seen this year.
Yes, thank you, Wole, for having me on the show. The profit taking rather continued today after the rally we had seen since December last year. It was expected to a certain extent because we had gained about 19% year to date. The big three, especially in the banking sector, was the worst hit today. The banking index was about 2.14% compared to the others. The ASI though closed slightly negative down at about 0.04, almost flat by itself, but this was only up by Dangote Cement, which gained around 5% and due to a lift towards the end of the market, and it closed at 147 naira. We're seeing some of these stocks going down, although there is latent demand both internationally and locally. So at some point we're going to see a turnaround again. But I think for now, until the end of this week, maybe towards the middle of next week, we're going to see this rally continue. I'm
guessing when you say latent demand, you're talking about some people not being too aggressive in terms of their pricing. So if we were to look at the trading terminal, we'll probably see a lot of demand at lower prices. Is that what you're saying?
There's a possibility that you do that. Like if you look at the total bids and offers at the end of the market, you might see that we had higher bids than offers in some of these names, despite the fact that some of them closed down. So that means that some of these names we have demand at very much lower levels, especially for the first-day banks. Although you might consider that some of the results have been priced in, the expectations, the results season. I think towards the results season, that's the March, we might say rebounding these names for people also taking positions for the results to come in and afterwards. I do not think that they have been fully priced. They might have been fully priced in, but we might see some late comers into the market who will also want to take it just before the results come out in order not to miss any rally that might occur after the results.
And what about the demand we're seeing for small and mid-cap companies? I think that's a new development. We saw a few of them come down today, the likes of ICO, Prestige Insurance, Fitson Health, but they've definitely rallied this year. And if you look at the leaders today by volume, they're all dominated. The likes of Transcore, they are dominating the volumes chart. So your thoughts on the rising demand we're seeing for small and mid-cap companies?
Yes, it's been, their rally has been so great this year and so impressive. There's been a lot of, they were cheap in the first instance. So for some of the other banks that were very expensive, the investors would say, let's take a position into what we think we can enter into. For some of these 50 kobo stocks that we're seeing, we saw them going up, and then for Japol, it was rallying so much. And then today, even though there were offers in the market and people decided to take profit, it's still closed on bid. So you can imagine the kind of amount of interest that we're seeing in those names. For Transco, it was also helped by the GE news and then the fact that they're part of the power sector. So a lot of hope, may I see, and a lot of positive news concerning the country, concerning the markets, concerning some of these stocks, and the expectations on the results are helping to drive this rally. So for some of them, you might see a little bit of profit taking, but the demand is still very much there. Not even latent demand, but demand at higher levels.
How much speculation do you think we're seeing in this market these days, Deji? Because that's one thing that tends to worry people at some point. The market gets into a bubble frenzy, if you like. Your thoughts about the speculative demand we're seeing in the market these days?
Personally, I might say we're seeing up to 40% speculation. The other demand we're seeing, which is the demand at lower levels, might be real demand for the long term, especially because some people had missed some entry points last year and they're trying to catch up. But the speculative demand that we might be seeing, in especially of the results and for profit taking, might be about 30% of that.
All right, we know there's value in the banks. We know, of course, some consumer companies still present some good value. But if I wanted to speculate in this market, Deji, which stocks do you think I should be looking at right now, given the rally we've seen in the insurance space? Clearly, there's now renewed interest in that space. Is that where I should be headed?
If I would follow what the speculators are doing, or what I think the speculators are doing right now, I would definitely tell you to go into mid-cap names, the Japol or the Transco of this world. For the first-tier banks, they might now be too expensive for a speculator, because in the end, you might not be as good as you want to be. But for the mid-cap stocks, they hold too much promise, and you might not miss it once you invest.